So my voice is coming clear, right? Thanks. Thanks. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing safe. Our best wishes to all of you. Moreover, thanks a lot for those who have joined for today's webinar panel discussion, which is themed around how hyperautomation will revolutionize the future of healthcare. We have participants all over the world who have registered for this webinar and wanted to understand from the subject point from the quality speakers today. Now to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. I'm Arvind Kannan. I'll be hosting today's webinar. I'm joined by Nitin Naveen, who is the VP and Innovation Strategy at AI CoSpot, and Naveen Kumar, who will be assisting us in this webinar to keep it lively. So I will provide you a brief background about AI CoSpot to you all. We started in January 2021, backed up by our knowledge and innovation partner InfoVision and our technology partner Digit7. The focus is to provide deep dive into all of the sectors where technology is there. Every month, we have different theme and gaining momentum month on month. Our aim is to be number one AI-driven community all over the world so that like-minded people like you can be part of the same in supporting and growing and making it a huge success. Our mission is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0 technologies like AI, ML, deep learning, RPA, robotics, IoT, edge computing, analytics, 5G, drone, edge AI, digital twin, AR, VR, cloud, and many more. We will continue to we will continue to do industry-packed webinars and hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from the reliable data through thought leaders, subject matter experts, and our partners, InfoVision and Digit7. We will enrich the digital content through videos, blog, podcast, newsletter to shed the light on ever-evolving industry. So I request all of you to go through our website, aicoursport.io, for further updates. Also, like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on what we propose to offer in coming months. There are lots in stores for subsequent month as well. Focus on healthcare, retail, warehouse, banking, finance, insurance, supply chain, logistics, telecom, media, blockchain, manufacturing, and many more. We will keep on adding more interesting and trending topics to the list. So before starting today, I would like to tell a few things so that we can set up the topic for an amazing networking and learning day for you all. A special mention to our knowledge and innovation partner, InfoVision, and technology partner, Digit7, who helped us in achieving our vision and supporting us to create a platform through which help achieve our objectives. Some introduction about InfoVision and Digit7. InfoVision is an end-to-end IT business service provider specialized in technology transformation and innovation projects for over 26 years across multiple industries. They have 3,000 technology professionals working across 12 global locations, which includes US, Latin America, Middle East, Japan, and India. They serve around 65 plus customers across healthcare, telecom, banking, finance, insurance, retail, consumer goods, and manufacturing, etc. So the core services which they offer are digital engineering services, which encompasses of big data analytics, cloud, DevOps, application services, legacy modernization, digital quality assurance, mobile API, microservices, social media research, and cybersecurity. Also, they have a unique state-of-art and innovation lab called Digit7, which is based out of Richardson, Texas. They have five great products: dgrab, Snapcard, TagSquare, DigitShell, and Glide Robo. The beauty of all five products, they are customizable, cost effectiveness, and can be used in every industry where the technology is needed. With the strong technology capabilities and delivery expertise, we are sure that they can help any industry in the transformational journey and provide technology need that can build a future-proof business model. So if you want to get in touch with them, you can go through their website, infovision.com and digit7.io, and leave your details. Next, I would like to thank all our community partners, which includes University Health, Hackensack Meridian Health, Teladoc Health, to make this webinar a huge success. And special mention to all the speakers who have spent their valuable time in sharing their knowledge with everyone. And thanks to attendees who have registered and came for today's webinar. to achieve their objective through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few things out of this forum or get to network with each other, our core objective will be achieved. Lastly, if anybody wanted to ask any question, they can type in the Q&A section, which is there in the right side corner of the menu. Also, there is a hand raise button at the bottom. You can come to the stage in a video format and ask the questions to the speakers. So today's webinar, we have four great leaders. Let me introduce all of them to you all. We have Dattatri Nagaraj, who is the Chief Business Officer at InfoVision, who manages the healthcare, life sciences, and manufacturing. Joined by Jennifer Hellman, Director of Pharmacy at University Health. We have Will Carroll, he's the Chief Pharmacy Officer, VP of Network Pharmacy at Hackensack Meridian Health. And we have Christian Chiasdio, is the Senior Vice President, Planning and Delivery at Teladoc Health. So I would quickly hand over the stage to Datta, who is the moderator for the panel discussion. Over to you, Datta.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Nitin. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to all the speakers and also the audience. This is a fascinating topic, right? Personally, I was just basically going through. I am a mechanical engineer to begin with, and when I was going through, humans are the only species, I think, on the planet who wants to go beyond the realm of our own capability and leverage the technology, right? If you see. And automation is not new. It has been there, I think, from first BC, when humans used animals to basically do their work. Started with some basic automation using some wheels and at least an enhancement to their own capability, right? If not fully automated, at least semi-automated. Then came, say, 9th century mill machinery advancements, 18th century, probably industrial revolution. That's where really it kicked off: steam engines, steam mills, internal combustion engines. Then 19 to 1950s, electrification, industrial controllers. Coming to 20th and 21st century, computers and robotics played a major role, and the whole of home automation became basically the center, like water heaters, clothes dryers, dishwashers, you name it. Now we have got used to it, so we don't know that whether we even have those capabilities. If actually that stops, probably I think we'll be stopping our whole work ethics itself, right? But if you really go back to manufacturing, that's where the automation happened. Just to give an example, Tesla production lines are 75% automated. Tesla Model 3 body line is 95% automated. And if you take Amazon's warehouse automation, it is 38%. They are spending 38% of the whole automation spending within US, right? So there is a lot going on. And when I see the healthcare automation market, it is pegged at around 37 billion in 2021, and it is predicted to at least triple by 2030 to 91.6 billion at a CAGR of around 10.33%, right? But since there is so much of automation which has already happened in other industries, still always healthcare, we see that it always lacks in terms of the progress, in terms of the adaptability, in terms of embracing. And I'm not telling that. See, I am also basically with healthcare and life sciences for more than a decade now, more than 12 years. It always fascinates me how we can take from other industry verticals to actually here and then accelerate the pace, right? So we have great speakers today. Let's dwell deeper into each one of these areas. And all the speakers are coming from extensive background in the healthcare and working in each of those different areas of as related to the patient and then the patient health. So let's discuss and then see how actually it is shaping up in their areas. Probably what are the things which they are seeing as a success and where they see that there may be other improvements. Probably we can take the examples from others and then do it and have a good discussion. So I would like the audience to basically get involved and then be participative. Please ask the questions in the Q&A section, as well as you can rise and then come on to basically this discussion so that we can get many of your questions answered through our panel speakers. So with that, I will basically have 30 seconds introduction from each of our speakers, and then we'll deep dive into each one of these areas, and we'll ask some curious questions and then see how actually this whole industry is shaping up from the hyper automation perspective, right? So we will start with Jennifer. Jennifer?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jennifer Hillman, and I am currently serving as the Executive Director of Pharmacy here in San Antonio, Texas. I am at a level 1 trauma center where we are currently licensed for 700 beds, and we're evolving to 1,000 beds in exactly 1 year. We're looking to establish flagship hospitals, sister hospitals to join this flagship hospital, and we service 27 different counties within the San Antonio area.
Wow. Thank you, Jennifer. Will?
Hi, I'm Will Carroll. I'm the Chief Pharmacy Officer, VP of Network Pharmacy for Hackensack Meridian, which is the largest integrated healthcare network here in the state of New Jersey. We have 18 hospitals and a full network of community services, including in my space, our retail pharmacies, home infusion, long-term care, many different sectors in that space. My background is clinical pharmacy. I was infectious diseases, worked in many different states, but really focused on really leading the strategy and continue to optimize to ensure that we have safe, effective medication use. So thanks for having us today.
Thank you, Will. Christian?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. Christian Caicedo. I am Senior VP for Planning and Delivering Clinical Operations at Teladoc Health, global leader in virtual medicine. And I have oversight right now of the product delivery for GenMed, which is our urgent care platform, Primary 360, which is our primary care platform, mental health, which is so needed, and I have a passion for it, as well as dermatology and nutrition. Multi-million numbers of consults throughout the country, its territories, and globally that we are engaging in virtual consultations with a number of providers and a number of members that are very important to us and their wellness. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you, Christian. So we'll get started. So Jennifer, probably I think my question would be, since you are coming from the public health sector perspective, so where are we really with respect to the hyperautomation, and what are the specific business use cases which you see that it is moving towards the hyperautomation?
So in terms of use case, I think from my perspective, how automation has changed the practice of pharmacy, really, to your point, it might be somewhat archaic, but I really think barcode technology has really revolutionized some of our processes in the pharmacy department. I mean, we have over 3,000 different line items on the formulary, and keeping track of all of that is somewhat daunting. So, and at this point, pretty much all of the medications are look-alike, sound-alike. I know we have a finite list that's published by ISMP, but with 3,000, you're really looking at everything at this point, look-alike, sound-alike. So there are so many interactive points when medications move from different areas within the hospital and from the wholesaler to the hospital, that implementing that barcode technology to ensure that you are moving the medications through the service lines adequately, safely, and effectively is really instrumental. And then also this barcode technology has alleviated some of what we had our pharmacists doing originally, which was checking products or double checking products. Now I'm able to have my pharmacist actually at the bedside with the patient, talking to the patients about the purpose of their medication, potential side effects, the affordability of their medication, because we know that a lot of patients, when they leave the hospital, 30 to 40% of them don't acquire their medications. And so if I have touch points with patients actually in the health system, which is our most expensive area of healthcare spend, and if I'm able to put my pharmacist there, because I have automation taking over some of the more mundane tasks, doing it better actually with higher effectiveness and quality, that really alleviates us to do different things that are face-to-face interactions that automation won't be able to take over.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think when it comes to, I will come back to actually a question on when we actually today, a patient leaves the hospital and then goes home, the amount of time it takes in terms of getting their medication filled and then delivered. I would like to see actually how that can be improved without actually human intervention, and then how it can really reach them at the right time without follow-ups. But I'll come back to that. We'll hold on to that thought. But let me actually come to Will. From your perspective, Will, since you are mainly your company is in the academic centers, acute care, and then research hospitals area. So what are basically some of the key considerations when adopting the use of automation in your workplace, and also what are the considerations in terms of developing a business case for them?
Yeah, I think you and Elizabeth and Jennifer are both kind of are kind of tapped into a little bit earlier. But one thing I'd like to emphasize, I think automation has done a great job in replacing some of the human component, but I like to emphasize that technology cannot replace all of humans, right? So oftentimes when we're building business cases, we're looking from an ROI perspective around reducing labor costs or completely, getting rid of the human factor. But I think I would encourage us to approach it from a value-focused conversation. And so typically I think of three buckets when building strategy, in, especially in the healthcare space. And I think about our people, and then I think about our patients, and I think about our responsibility. So from a people perspective, especially now coming through a pandemic, when we're looking at automation and such, are we improving the work environment for our people? Are we making it safer for them? Are we getting rid of some of the mundane tasks that really aren't allowing them to work at the top of their license, to Jennifer's point, and freeing them up to do things like that, right? So from the people perspective, from the patient perspective, are we hardwiring processes to ensure there's safe medication use across the system? Are we improving safety in other spaces, or improving quality of care as well? And then from a responsibility perspective, I think of the physical responsibility. We do care about financial stewardship, and are we reducing the total cost of healthcare? But I also think about our responsibility is to ensure regulatory and statutory compliance. So are we hardwiring processes and controls to better manage, say, inventory, control substances, and some of our processes in that space? So I think when we're thinking about building a business case, think about what the problem is that you're aiming to address, and then think about those components as well, and understanding that there's still going to be ongoing human support that's needed. So I think one of the key things is when you're establishing automation, consider what does that ongoing support look like, for the organization. And then lastly, understand that sometimes you now have an opportunity to redeploy those staff that were doing some of those tasks to fill in some gaps that were probably already existing in the network or in your space. So how do we redeploy and allow our teams to do greater direct patient care, to Jennifer's point earlier?
Thank you, Will. See, I think the aging population is increasing. Definitely the number of doctors, nurses, and then that anyway, we cannot increase exponentially. So technology has to basically kick in. I think this is the right time. But I still have a question. When in other industries, when we can achieve 97%, I will come back and then ask you how much percentage probably we have achieved, and do we really want to even aim for half of it as we go forward? But I'll come back to basically, I'll have a question to Christian. So So, Christian, from your point of view, since you are mainly in the teledoc area, virtual care, virtual basically health, so do you think hyper automation is this is one area where I normally think that it should be leveraging and it should be reaching to the patients pretty fast, including the providers, because it's on the other end. So, what is your perspective and where it is heading?
That's a great question. Thank you. I appreciate it. One of the things that I left out in my introduction is my background is in emergency medicine. And my last role at my previous employer was president of a hospital. And I was very, very focused while creating virtual services that we were still focused on the quadruple lane. And the other soundbite that I used a great deal with my folks then and my folks now at Teladoc Health is that I do not want to recreate brick and mortar practices and just put them in a monitor in front of a patient virtually. I want to really reinvent how we deliver that care. However, we still have to play by the rules, right, that brick and mortar practices live by. We are a healthcare delivery system. We have to play by those rules. And focusing on the quadruple aim, I think, gives us guardrails and guidance of how we do that. I'll start with quality. I think automation can help us combine disparate tools for clinicians and elevate or expose valuable information that then people can make decisions on to increase the quality and improve the outcomes for the patients that we're caring for. The patient experience is the next piece that I'll talk about, and that is a patient's perspective is the measure of the quality that they're getting. And that is a very real thing. And if we can utilize tools to help with the engagement of a patient with a virtual tool, how that experience is it easy? Is it intuitive? Can it lead to quick access to a provider that is going to provide valuable care? The other thing is, what's the experience like in that next part of the journey? What is that experience between a patient and a provider when they're in a virtual environment? Does it provide the perception of quality? Does it actually provide the real answer that the patient is looking for? Lastly, what are some of the things that we need to take into account after the patient's encounter? I'll give you an example. Surveys, right? How do we automate surveys that are valuable? If I go to my primary care doctor today and I have an appointment, and later on this evening, I happen to suffer a heart attack and I go to the emergency room and now I'm admitted. 2 days later, while I'm in the hospital, I'm getting a survey from my primary care doctor to ask me, how was my encounter with my primary care doctor? Great. I didn't even see it because I'm in a hospital bed. 3 days into the hospital stay, I'll get a survey from the emergency department that asks me, how was my encounter with my emergency room physician and that care team? Well, that was wonderful. But then after I'm discharged and I'm in rehab or going back to my primary care, I'm going to get a survey from the inpatient unit. How do we look at what are we really trying to ask the patient and in what environment, and tie them all together so that we have a singular experience that provides valuable feedback to the clinical team, the health system, and the primary care doctors so they can provide better care moving forward. We should be thinking about that because I'll tell you, I'm survey fatigued. So fiscal responsibility. That's the other thing. Extremely important to health systems about how quickly we're submitting claims, right? There are many, many tools for revenue cycle management that are out there. But how do we combine that with clinical decision improvement and coding, right? How do we raise that to the point of at point of care so that I can provide better coding, better billing, so that then we can have less accounts receivable days and actually get paid for what we did? I think health systems need to look at how to tie those things together, automate them so that in real time we're making better decisions. Finally, provider experience, right? We are all facing workforce challenges no matter what part of the healthcare system we are and how we're delivering it. And I think it's really, really important that we put processes in place, and I know this is a cliche, so that everybody can work at the top of their license, and take away clerical tasks that are not value added. It's not helping the outcome of the patient, and thus it's not helping quality. It's certainly taken away from the ability of the provider at the bedside, whether it's a pharmacist, a nurse, an MA, or a physician, from spending more time and adding value to that encounter. So automation of some of that will help with the provider experience, which ultimately will lead to better quality, better patient experience, and decreased utilization. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christian. I think a lot of perspectives came there. So we will revisit some of them. So Jennifer, to your, I'm coming back to the question what I asked. So compared to what we have the delivery system today of delivering the medicines to the patients, it feels like that we are still 15 years back when we were looking for a cab outside, right? The person has to go out and then stick his hand out and then look for some yellow cabs to basically be available, or you need to depend on somebody else. How can we Uberize this whole experience where the required medicine can come to the patient at the right time once actually he or she gets basically discharged from the hospital?
So this is kind of a very salient point. We actually implemented a meds to beds program here in our health system so that we would ensure that at least the prescriptions were delivered directly to the bedside to the patient, and that we knew that when they went home, they had their prescriptions. I am also looking to deploy robots that come to my central pharmacy and can deliver from the central pharmacy up to the units, because to your point, the labor market, how do I automate some of these processes so I don't have to spend time in transit? Because that's really not value added time for the patient or my staff. You know, it's a lot of exercise. If you like to work out, it's a great place to come, but it's not really value added. So there are delivery robots that we are actually have in the budget for this next fiscal year. And I'm really excited to see if they pan out to be all I expect them to be.
Great. But at least it is a good first step in terms of moving towards at least looking at what really the patient looks for, especially when they've already gone through all the trauma and then they get discharged. The last thing what they want to do is to follow up for their medicine, their own medicine, right? Yeah. So basically to your point, so instead of putting a percentage to the automation, right, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. But in terms of what the patient or the provider looks for, are we really making the strides towards basically helping the end goal?
I think that we are. We've implemented a lot of technology in the last 5 years in our pharmacy department, and all for the better. But I will say that technology is not as versatile as I expected it to be, and I think we really need to drive towards an automation line of products that are produced from other manufacturers. Because if we're supposed to automate in our pharmacies, the disposables that I use are very different from one company to the next. And until everything is exactly identically prepared, there's no way that I can keep my automation workable, because we have so many shortages and back orders. I have to switch my product lines all the time, and reprogramming my robots, in a pharmacy is very different from a manufacturer. They know cookie cutter exactly what's going to happen. But I think striving towards standardization from the industry into the hospitals will help us automate our processes in a better way.
Thanks, Jennifer.
May I comment on that as well? No, I think that's spot on, because I think Christian kind of brought it up earlier around how everything is siloed in the patient care experience and how do we harmonize. It's the same thing in the automation space. I think everyone wants to innovate and be the first to market, but many times like my iPhone does not work. My charger doesn't work with my Samsung, and I have two phones. And when I travel, if I forget one charger, I have to go get the other one, right? Or buy one. But it's the same thing in the automation space. They don't interface. Sometimes they don't talk. And part of that, it may help in one specific area, but sometimes it increases the need for more labor or more behind the scenes IT support and such, right? So to Jennifer's point, if we could not just move individuals as a silo, but look at it across the entire spectrum and continuum of care, how do we move the needle that way?
Thanks, Will. So, Christian, I have one question for you. So, we talk about so many different groups, different regulations, different underlying technologies to come together. But if you really see, actually, from the rotary phones to iPhone, it was a leapfrog, right? The person who is using doesn't understand what technologies have gone behind that. It is not that none of these technologies were available. It was available in silos. But how all these things were put together, combined, that the experience of using that, there was no hindrance or basically no pushback in terms of adaptation, because it was no brainer to basically adapt to that. So some of these different silos you talked about and in the different procedures, patient need not know that. It has to happen through the people who are great at it, and then they are actually more advanced at it. So what is really lacking in terms of bringing all these things together? Technology is available.
Yeah, technology is available, but to Jennifer and Will's point, they do work in silos. There are RPAs, right? Robot processing automation, that will do one thing at a time, right? And then this other piece is doing this other thing. And now you have humans right now, right? You have humans that kind of put them together to say, okay, I'll give you an example in my world right now. We it's like Match.com, right? I have patients in all 50 states that want to see a provider. Okay, there is a complex algorithm just to do the matching. What state are they in? Is the provider have a license in that state? Is it a male or a female? Is the provider appropriately licensed? Which means that I'm a 16-year-old. I need to have a pediatrician, family doctor, or emergency room physician that could see me, not an internal medicine doctor. Are there other variables or attributes in my request for visit that need to be matched to that provider? All of these things are going on, right? At the same time, because of my request to visit, there are things that are being automated in the inputs I put in so that it helps the provider then help make a better decision once they actually see me. Am I on certain antibiotics? Am I on certain medications? Am I pregnant? Are there things in my background that need to take into consideration in order for referrals to be created? All of those things. My panacea, and this was going to be part of my final point, is how do you marry all of these things? So from a single platform and a single point of solution, all these things are put together from the very beginning to the encounter, to the post-visit, and then when I don't even need care. How is it nudging me to say, Christian, don't eat the slice of pizza. Have an apple instead. Go for a walk. Do those kind of things that are going to create wellness, right? That is part of what Teladoc is really trying to do here in our new campaign of whole person care. Is I don't want to treat patients just when they're sick. I want to treat them for their entire journey. When you don't even need me, I'm going to be there to support you in wellness.
That's the key word, wellness. Mm-hmm.
That's great, actually. That's great, Christian. Very well articulated. So, Will, a question to you. So, I think Christian brought about a very salient point. Technology is there, and they are working in silos. Is it that we are approaching this problem totally in a wrong way? That's why we are not able to achieve the required output?
When you say we, are you referring
All
to?
of us are actually, as we
Okay,
are all basically the solution providers from
is
different angles, right?
that's right. So I think we all have great intentions. I think the challenge is, I don't want to get too political, but I'll say that healthcare in the United States is a commodity. And so individuals may be seeking to make money in this space versus truly promoting overall wellness and well-being and preventative medicine and things, right? Because the way our payer structure is set up, the way our government is set up for incentivizing and things, it does not promote necessarily a well-integrated total well-being model when it comes to making money. And so I think it's a little challenging to move as quickly as we might desire because of some of the limitations. Christian said we have to play by the rules. Rules do exist in our space. And so I think we have the best desire and we make great efforts and we move as fast as we can, given all the barriers and rules that are established around us. So I'd say I think we've come a long way. I think a lot of networks, like we've seen more of the integrated delivery networks, and you see more of a value-based approach for total healthcare, right? So I think we're moving in the right direction. I just don't think we're there as a country yet in the United States. I'll say that's the only perspective I can speak from. But I don't know if Christian. I think you came off of mute. What do you got to say?
Yeah, I love that question, and it is because I think you asked the right question. Will, is who's the we, right?
Yeah.
The that's it. So we could spend 2 hours on just this topic. So the we is very important because, again, we're playing by rules that are set in place for all of us to be successful in whatever venue we're delivering care, right? For example, if we wanted to really automate social determinants of health, right? And identify individuals that could benefit from different types of interventions, digital, virtual, brick and mortar, non-traditional healthcare delivery, like a carpenter coming to your house to make sure you have a ramp so you don't go up the steps and fall and break your head. Easy kind of stuff, right? However, the rules right now are we're still living in many fee-for-service environments, which means that if we spend money on that and that person doesn't come to the ED, they don't get the x-ray, the CT, the lab work, right? Which is expenditure and revenue generation. Inpatient services, right? I'll give you an example. The other example is primary care doesn't make money. They make money from downstream revenue, right? So if we empower our primary care doctors to really do well and keep people out of the hospital, how do we supplement all that downstream revenue because we're keeping people well? Those dollars are actually being reinvested in the technology, automation, resources, workforce, right? We need to have a conversation much bigger around just one little piece and say, how do we reinvent healthcare in this country so that the patient gets what they need and we are spending the healthcare dollars more strategically?
Well said.
I actually,
Jennifer's got something.
Very well said.
I have some. Yeah, I do want to make a comment.
Please go ahead, Jennifer.
Just from a hospital's perspective, if I'm trying, you said, how can I automate more? How can I bring more technology into the workspace? And I think maybe it's how can I develop my own technology rather than going to another company to try to bring in what's already in their wheelhouse. It's trying to fit sometimes square pegs and round holes. And some companies are very flexible and they will try to work with you to reprogram, redesign, because it doesn't always fit. They're not cookie cutters. And sometimes they explain it a certain way and it's really not that way. And so I think if we as health systems can maybe work together to automate things independently and individually and with each other, that would be more effective than sourcing with outside companies that aren't in, I mean, they are healthcare companies, but they're not healthcare providers and they don't really know the ins and outs of what's going on in our systems. So I think that's really the real revolution is we need to do this ourselves collaboratively across the nation as hospital providers. How can we automate this together?
See, that's where actually we can keep talking this endlessly, right? But if I really try to draw the comparison, if you take even the automobile industry, why we actually kept on going with either petrol or diesel, right? The gasoline, rather than basically electric cars for a long time. Yeah, we had reasons, but there were systemic reasons too, right? As it is very well known in the healthcare, the lobbies and the way the fee structure, as Christian mentioned. So maybe I think, do we lack, the question what comes to my mind is, do we lack Steve Jobs or Elon Musk actually in the healthcare? Do we need one in order to basically just revamp the whole thing end to end? Yeah, anyone can go.
So so when Jennifer was speaking, I was thinking of my brain was thinking the Elon Musk people are over here coming up with the engineers. That's your background, right? I'm not an engineer. I don't know that. But how do we bridge and make sure that we have both sides, both people at the table at once, right? Um, I don't know about the Elon Musk thing, but we need people with that mindset and that creativity and the innovation to bridge the gap, because in healthcare, we're not designed to be as innovative. We are in the research space, right? But for the most part, we want high reliability organizations. I'm trained to be highly anal, highly critical, and consistent, because you want the consistent outcome, right?
Yep.
That's completely opposite to innovation. It's kind of, how do you balance the two and move healthcare forward without compromising patient care at the same time?
That's where I think my point is, technology is available. How we can leverage the technology now to make sure that we are at that level of basically the efficacy, but still we
Yeah.
are able to deliver what we want, so that these hindrances of the human attitude, mentality, and also these barriers can be taken away. Whether the technology is really available at that level, that is the next, actually, the set of questions what I wanted to ask. Are we really there, Jennifer? Do we
Well,
lack anything?
yeah, well, I got a little bit of Elon Musk in me, so let me tell
Okay,
you a
sure.
story. So,
Please go ahead.
yeah, you're going to want to hear this. So, I mean, I'm thinking about automation all the time because, for instance, we're building another hospital attached to our hospital that's going to open up in 1 year, and it's a pediatric hospital. So, what does that mean? A lot of compounding for me. So, what I did was we make a lot of oral syringes for pediatric patients, and you can't buy them from the manufacturer. You have to do it yourself. So we're drawing up 1,000, think about it, would you want to draw up 1,000 oral syringes every single day? No, you don't want to do that. So what I did was I saw an IV robot in the market space, and I approached that company and I said, you know what? Let's redesign your IV robot because I need an oral syringe packaging robot. And it took a while, but that's exactly what we did. And I have to be honest with you, this thing does everything start to finish. It pulls your syringe, it draws up the volume, it caps it in a tamper evident cap, it labels it with a barcode, then it checks it for volumetric appropriateness, and then it puts it in an accept bin or a reject bin. And it does all of this. Guess how long it takes to do one syringe? 30 seconds. That is just as good as my human counterpart. And on top of that, I've got air in line detection, because a lot of these liquids are clear and we draw them up in amber syringes. So you can't always see, did you pull up air or did you pull up the real liquid? And so, and doing it 1,000 times, do you think you're always going to draw up exactly 1 ml? You get tired, you get fatigued after a while. So I'm telling you, this robot, I mean, a lot of my stuff doesn't work. I buy a lot of automation and it doesn't do what I think it's going to do. This thing does what it's expected to do. And I am so happy and excited that we've gotten it where it needs to go. And I want to really help expedite and introduce this to the workspace because it adds a layer of automation that really is effective and innovative and a labor saver. So there's your Elon Musk.
I love it.
Awesome.
It's really great. Actually, so is it implemented in one of the hospitals right now?
We call it the GenBot after me. Like it's my robot. So I've got it here. Yeah.
GenBot,
I've got it here. Yeah.
I hope you're getting our royalty.
Right.
That's incredible result of bidirectional kind of communication and asking the right questions, right? You presented a problem, they already had a solution that was then modified to really solve your problem. And that kind of collaboration is key, right? Because there are things that I'm doing right now and an automation would improve the process. And we uncover those every day just by utilizing our EMR. We're like, this is a really bad process.
No, this is really great. I think really congratulations to you, Jen. So, Will, what do you think? Are there any technologies you think that probably it is not there, or you wish it was there? It would have really changed the whole game.
I feel like I don't know that I can label one thing in particular. I feel like there are multiple examples, kind of like the one that Jennifer provided, of where there's a certain component of it, but it just doesn't go all the way with what I needed to do, right? So I'll say from a sterile compounding processing perspective, there are multiple disparate systems, some that are volumetric, some are specific gravity. There are all these different components, but none of them really combine all of them together so that I could really minimize error and avoid having to have my pharmacist watch and stand physically there to watch everything a technician does, right, to ensure safety. And so for me, I would love to see a product come out that truly that makes it simple, easy to maintain a process for ensuring that when we're making sterile compounding processing, it's done safely, but also efficiently. And I haven't really seen that just yet.
So basically, yeah, you want basically a sterile compound mixing, which is very similar to an ATM machine. You just go and then you have the barcode of what you want. It just mixes and then delivers it to you.
Well, see, there are machines. There's robotics like the one that Jennifer referenced. I'm sure is one of them that was doing sterile compounding. However, sometimes those are big footprints. Sometimes those are capital challenges. Sometimes it's a matter of, does the state board allow you to use those and give you stating? So there are limitations around that, and how do you find something that potentially could align with the Swiss cheese and actually meet the needs and requirements across the board?
Christian, your point of view?
Yeah, I had spoken earlier about that, the panacea for me, right? The single point solution that will help me do all those things throughout the journey of the patient. And how do I connect with the patient in a very meaningful way, even when they don't need me? But I'm going to take a step back. I think that's ultimately the solution. And I think that there are smarter people, including my colleagues here in the room, that can probably come up with, the Gen platform that's going to do all of that for patients all around the world. I think companies like mine and healthcare systems are going to need to have ongoing conversation and a very deliberate investment in governance created around how we do this, right? I think we can learn from the things that are automated now. How do we value each one of those? What is the value to the patient, the provider, the organization? How do we put all that together? What's going to yield the best ROI, to Will's point earlier? And then who's accountable for it? Like, do we want a centralized governance or do we want it federated? Is it go out to different divisions and they figure it out and then come back to us? Or do we have a centralized strategic plan about just automation? Because what we want to do is augment this tools to help the workforce in place. And I think people are yearning for that. They want tools that are going to make their life easier, are going to make me want to come to work because I want to provide really, really great care. And if we can achieve digitizing healthcare to make healthcare more human, we won, right? And I think that's the ultimate goal.
So, Jennifer, one question related to Christian's perspective. Other than basically the regulators as well as the ones which are in silos, and also probably a strategic thinking in terms of how all these things has to come together, maybe approaching the business case itself. Do you think any other things are lacking in terms of implementing some of these hyper-automation technologies?
Well, I can speak to some of this technology. From what I've learned about technology, they don't work well when you have to pivot quickly. That's why I think they work well in manufacturing, because you're making the same line item over and over and over, and you're not changing your line items like we do in hospital pharmacy. So what I'm kind of thinking that I want to do is, right now I'm a 503A compounding pharmacy. I'd like to become a 503B compounding pharmacy where I can make more of that exact same product day over day, rather than switching my robots out for different products and get that speed and efficiency. And I would like to partner with hospitals inside of my city to be a 503B for them. And we gain some efficiencies by making more product for the city that I live in, rather than trying to outsource from different 503Bs. Those drugs constantly go on back order and shortage. So from like a strategic planning event, I think that's the right thing to do, to maximize your automation, to try to make the same amount of units as much as possible on a robot. You really need to do it with a higher volume than a single flagship hospital can really do. So I think that even though it seems like I'm very large scale, being almost 1,000 beds, in reality for automation, that's not very big. That's why the manufacturers, to your point, in the auto industry, it's the same product line over and over, and it's effective. It's not really effective for hospital pharmacy.
Very good point. Will, you seem to have your thoughts actually on that.
You're muted.
You are muted, I think.
Thank you. Sorry about that. No, I completely agree. I think it's kind of what I was hinting to earlier around where healthcare is not, healthcare is very consistent usually, or is not as consistent even in some of the other spaces. So I think it kind of speaks to the same thing of how do we find something or technology that's more agile to meet the needs, the ever-changing needs. And I think even right now, as we are trying to create and be innovative, how do we pilot these new and innovative things and without having to invest, such large amounts of money? Because if it doesn't work, you need to pivot and be able to pivot. And that's sometimes not as easy to deploy some of these large automations or technologies in our health system, especially when you have a lot of beds and you're in a large system. So,
great. Christian, any thoughts from you?
I love the thought of economies of scale, right? Of how do you manufacture enough medications, automate that so that you can help an entire city, an entire region, right? What did we learn from the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
During the pandemic, hospitals had to come together, put their differences in competitive, goals aside, and say, for the county of ABC, right, we're going to come together and provide this PPE, these testing sites, these vaccination sites. How do we work together in order to provide all those services? And I think that, if we're able to put those differences aside, again, our competitive nature, and I'm highly competitive, so it's tough to do. And in healthcare, I'm telling you, 2 hours from me here in Philadelphia is probably the most competitive healthcare environment in the East Coast. That, if we could do that, we could come together and then leverage those economies of scale. Until we are able to have those discussions, it'll be difficult.
We'll just go one more round on this. Do you see from the technology tools point of view interoperability, because there are so many manufacturers, there are so many standards, there are some initiatives which are being taken, but is it enough? Do you see that bringing all these things together? Because even the patients themselves have so many gadgets which they can use now, including the iWatch, or basically there are so many gadgets which can at least do the basic checks and then gather the data, and then they can feed it back to basically the providers. But do you see interoperability is one of the areas where there needs a big shift?
Yeah. I'll jump in. So listen, wearables and peripherals and data that's coming from gathering patient information from disparate systems is great. I'll go back to a word that I used earlier. Is it valuable, right? Is it providing actionable information that is valuable to the care team so that they can make decisions to improve the healthcare of that particular patient. For example, my father-in-law, he has atrial fibrillation. If he has atrial fibrillation is well controlled, and then he gets up to the bathroom or goes to PT and his heart rate goes to 120, and an alert goes to his cardiologist that his AFib is now fast and he's in RVR, is that really valuable? I think that AI needs to get to a point where it's providing information to a care team to make a decision with context. This is a value that that is out of range, but this is what else is going on with the patient at this particular time. So that then there's an intelligent decision based on that particular value. So I don't think clinicians want any more noise to their day-to-day activities. They need valuable data in order to make decisions. And that's where some automation and machine learning and AI can come in and be helpful.
Your perspective, Will?
No, I agree. I was just thinking through back to my original comment of why technology or automation can't completely replace humans, because the numbers only tell a certain amount of information, but you have to have the story around it and the context, to your point. Now, I think we've been making advancements in AI and machine learning, right, to move in that space. So I think there's opportunity there. I think as far as wearables and leveraging that type of technology and the interfacing interoperability, I think that is a great place to really leverage and continue to innovate, because most of our care is trying to be moved outside of the four walls of the hospital, right? Patients don't want to come to us. How do we empower them to better manage their care locally, but also how do we structure our health system and our services to utilize the data to support them, but potentially help meet their need without them even having to leave their home, right? So I think we've made really good strides there. Even when I was at one of my large organizations, Kaiser Permanente, before, we did a lot of ambulatory care model, a lot of leveraging of technology and scales that could upload through Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and such, right? So I think there are some pockets there, but I think we still have a ways to go, and I think it's a great place to focus.
Last comment from Christian. Your perspective? I think we are almost close. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. As I said,
I think interoperability is key. I know that some of our patients get lost. The more complex the technology, the less they're using it. So being able to interface and have one log on, one password rather than multiples, I think is what we need to go towards.
Please go. Thanks, Jennifer. Christian, I think you had some point.
No. Thank you. As I said before, one, and I'm totally agreeing with Jen. One single password, one single platform that can make digital healthcare or automation a more human experience will be a win for the industry. So I echo your comments.
At least I feel that the first step probably would be when the patients are in the inpatient system, that system versus once they actually get discharged and they come home, and the care which comes to the home, they are not on the same network. They are not even on the same system. So they cannot even talk to each other. So at least if that can be made, that is just a two-step process. If they can come onto the same platform and then they can share, because everything they need to start doing it all over again, So I think that will be a great move. I think we are almost come to the end of this session. We can actually keep going on and on. It's a very interesting and fascinating subject, at least for me from the technology perspective. Thank you very much, Jennifer, Will, and then Christian. I really enjoyed basically moderating this session. Any closing comments, Jennifer? 10 seconds.
I'm looking forward to collaborating with anybody out there that's looking to bolster our IT and technology. That's my thing.
Jennifer, I am here. We are a technology-driven company, and then we do a lot of cutting-edge technology, especially given the business case, how we can help. We have helped several startups. I'll be more than happy to actually connect with you offline. But definitely, Will and then Christian also will be able to add value. So, Will, any last comments?
No, this has just been very good, very insightful. So I appreciate the time and looking forward to continue collaboration with Jennifer, Christian, and the rest of you guys.
Sure. Thank you very much. Christian?
Same here. I'm just grateful to be part of this conversation. Like I said in my LinkedIn post, I was looking very much forward to having this discussion and learning from my colleagues and all of you. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I think we'll continue the conversation offline and then we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot for actually, and then thanks to our audience. There is one Q&A. Sorry, actually, I didn't see that in the middle of the
There are
discussion.
3 questions, Datta. So
3 questions. Okay. No, 2, right?
you can
about
see
that.
that. So we'll get.
Yeah,
3
I think
questions.
I will go ahead and then read. Any one of you can take this. Every year, millions of people misses the doctor's appointment due to poor transportation service. How technology can ease transportation that can avoid hurdles? That is the first question. Second one also, what are the issues and challenges which healthcare organizations facing right now? How hyper automation can change something better? Any one of you can take this.
I'll take the second one there just really quickly as far as issues. I think we're down with labor and workforce. So I think anything that can make us more efficient and safer, because there are few people doing the same amount of work or more work. So we're working faster, we're working harder. But how do we leverage automation to do some of the mundane tasks or to hardwire some things so that we can free up our people to work more efficiently and to ensure patient safety?
And I'll take the top question. How can we use hyperautomation to change something better? I know that drug shortages are a big deal in the healthcare industry. And so leveraging artificial intelligence to get ahead of that and buying more product, knowing your utilization rates, buying product ahead of time, all of that really helps ensure that you have the right amount of product in your facility to care for your patients. So using that type of technology is something that we're working towards developing.
Thank you very much.
And the last piece with the transportation, we faced this in my previous health system, and a partnership with Uber Health was something that became very useful for us, and a connectivity between our EHR and because then it would identify when a patient was ready to go, where they were going, the kind of resources they would need, and then connect them at the right time so that then that patient can go home via that Uber Health. I think was very successful. I think we should be thinking about those types of solutions and connecting them directly with out of the EHR so that we can have a seamless transfer of patients to where they need to be.
Thank you very much, Christian. Again, thanks to Jennifer, Will, and then Christian for your time as well as your perspective. Arvind, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Datta. Thanks, Jennifer, Will, Christian, who were part of today's webinar and bringing insights on how technology and innovation is revolutionizing healthcare. I hope the audience would have enjoyed learning from you all. So I'll quickly wrap up the session. I would like to thank all our community partners, speakers, attendees, and enriching knowledge through this forum. We had a great set of panel speakers today who came together to share their thoughts. Thanks a lot for them. Just for your information, today's webinar was broadcasted live in our YouTube and Facebook channel of our company. You can visit our website, which is aicoursport.io, and like our social media channels, which will keep you all updated on what we propose to offer in coming months, and which will help you register and attend, and make your horizon a broader way. I would like to thank our knowledge and innovation partner, InfoVision, and our technology partner, Digit7, for making this webinar a huge success. Just let you all know that Digit7 has their innovation lab of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Texas. If any one of you dropping by can go to their office and just feel how technology is changing. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a lovely weekend ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.